Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are, or good night, depending where you are. I'm Alicia, not AI Smith, your host for today's webinar, The Evolution of Automation, Why AI Orchestration Matters. We are joined today by two amazing speakers, primarily Reid Robinson, who will introduce himself in just a bit. Now, as people trickle in, want to run through a few housekeeping items that are standard here. This webinar is being recorded. You will get the recording in 2 to 3 business days after the event. We like to make it as packaged as possible, including sometimes some templates and fun things like that. We will have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, maybe 1 or 2 questions. We're trying to keep this to 30 minutes, be respectful of everyone's time, since we know everyone is super busy. Appreciate you all being here. However, if we are willing to go over a little bit to answer some questions to make sure that everyone is excited as we are about AI orchestration. Also, we recommend using Google Chrome for streaming. This is just the best platform to do it. Other platforms sometimes lead to audio, video issues or inability to actually log in. So would definitely try that if you have it available. If not, no big deal. Tech troubleshooting. If you seem to have any issues, again, with audio or video, I would try a quick refresh. Otherwise, leave and come back. It's the simplest thing to do. And if you still are having issues, feel free to send something into the questions box. As you've noticed, we did disable chat just to keep everything focused and to make sure to send relevant questions into the box so we can, in the short amount of time, we can answer what people are asking. Now, we are going to, as people finalize getting into the room, we're going to run a quick poll that is in line with today's topic. So let us launch this poll. How much experience do you have with automation and AI? Now, this could apply to your company in general. We're kind of taking whatever you want to give us, just to understand the baseline of where our audience is at today. I'll give everyone about 20 seconds to answer, but first, just dipping my toes in. I'm curious about automation, but haven't built anything yet. Now that will be an interesting number of people who answer that. Getting comfortable. I've set up automations to make my work easier, and we're including AI in this a little bit too. Feeling confident. I've created automations that use AI to do some of the heavy lifting. Great. Tech wizard status. I regularly build complex automation solutions with AI and could teach others, i.e. our speaker today, Reid, is definitely in that category. So we'll give everyone about 5 more seconds to answer and see what everyone says. I'm excited to get there. I can tell you that my experience varies in the lower 50%. But I'm fortunate to work with people who are willing to help and teach me and be an organization that is ahead of the curve. All right, let's see. Okay, this is really an interesting group. Getting comfortable. So we're kind of at a baseline. A lot of us are at in especially certain industries. Just dipping my toes in, but haven't done anything yet. Okay, so we have some. You're in the right place to learn about where things are going between automation and AI and how the interplay between the two. Feeling confident at 19%, and then at 6%, tech wizard genius. Okay, so we'll see what questions come up there. But overall, 46% getting comfortable. So it's a good little baseline to go with. All right, I now actually have to vote. So there you go. And with that, I am going to pass it over to our amazing speaker today, Reid.
Hello, everybody. You've got 2 amazing speakers. You've got myself, Reid, AI product manager here at Zapier. So I get to work on a lot of what we're building that deals with AI across our business. I also get to work with a lot of our amazing partners like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and others. So excited to chat today. We spend a lot of our time kind of building with AI internally, talking with customers about what they're building, and increasingly, just hearing more and more about what it means to evolve as an organization and where, as we like to call it, AI orchestration starts to play a role. I'm happy to talk about that today. Stafford, what about yourself?
Everybody. Excited to be here, and thanks everyone for joining. I work in the solutions architecture department, which means think of us as like your technical counterpart, mainly in the enterprise segment. And we're kind of like your go-to solutions people, helping you use every aspect of the platform in the most creative ways. And yeah, I'm going to run you through a pre-recorded but interesting MCP demo, and happy to take your questions after.
Yeah, and as a call out, yeah, Stafford and I are live here, but wanted to record a demo, make sure everything runs smoothly, especially given the short time today. All right, so first off, one of the things that we're hearing a lot from our customers and from everybody in the market seemingly is that there's increasingly these concepts of like an AI mandate. For anyone that didn't see, this is actually Toby, who's the CEO of Shopify. This one went like viral a little while ago on just like their internal memo on how everyone kind of needs to be using AI and thinking about it. And we hear this time and time again. I join a lot of conversations where they're like, our board, our CEO, our VP is telling me like, we need to figure out how to use AI. We need to be using agents. We just got ChatGPT Enterprise or Claude Enterprise, and now we need to be they want us to do more. Like, what is next? How does that evolve? And we get those conversations a lot, and certainly understand that there is like a good amount of top-down pressure for folks to figure this out. And hopefully today we can dive into like what we're seeing in terms of like translating that into action. Number one, I think this always helps to start with is just what are the use cases we're seeing? What are the real impactful ways that folks are leveraging AI from our perspective? And our perspective is very much like building systems, building automations, bringing tools alongside your AI tools. And for us, it really comes down to these six. And one of the things I like to say about like our perspective on use cases, the data that influences what you're seeing here is driven on usage. And what's always interesting for me to think about this is what users like you are paying us to provide. And I think that's a great signal because it means that these are valuable use cases. Some of the conversations I get, people want to know like, oh, are these actually valuable use cases, or are these just like cool demos? Like, did people actually turn these on? Did these actually do good for the business? And I think there's probably no greater metric than folks are continuing to pay for systems with AI that do these jobs. And so to give like a quick overview of this, number one, certainly things like extract data. That's when you're dealing with unstructured data and wanting to like turn it into as if it was submitted via form. Really, really common here would be like email parsing or PDFs, things where you might be dealing with a workflow internally where you get lots of emails and you're like, or lots of messages and you're like, I really needed this to be I wish this was a form instead. But your users, your customers, whoever, your employees, whoever it is, they send you unstructured things and you need to deal with that. Classifying data, quite similar, but in the case of like there is information and you want to get it into certain categories, things like that. Summarizing, I think probably almost everybody here is going to be familiar with using AI to summarize information. I think if anything, I would say, when you look at doing jobs like that, it's more like summarizing with context, right? We see a lot of users providing context to the models that provide better summaries, right? It's not just summarize this as the only thing you're saying. It's really about describing what the persona should be, what is the objective, what the context is, and then that summarization job. That applies as well for writing content, which we see a lot. Things like helping do drafts, helping moving on to replying to customers. That's a really big one. Support workflows, sales workflows, whether that be draft states or automated full sends as well. And then, analytics, a lot of stuff dealing with data and helping manage that. So just diving through that as you kind of like think through like what might be relevant for your business. Now, what does this journey look like? I talked about, one of the examples that we get a lot is we just adopted ChatGPT. We're using it across the business. And I think one of those things is just thinking about that evolution between your use of a tool like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini as like those one-off, like you gave it the email, and then looking at like, how does it grow from there? How can you move into the more advanced usage and how do you scale that? And, at Zapier, really early on, we're a company that lives by automation and building systems. And so we took off to this very aggressively. Our CEO, Reid, announced like a code red internally and gave the company a week to really like explore use cases for AI. And we really took to this. This is some early data from one of our other co-founders, Mike, on just like how we as a business were starting to adopt this. And this was actually, I think, January of last year. So it's been quite a bit since then. And then want to show you, actually, I want to come to the demo. I think the slide got in the wrong spot there. But one of the things just to talk about is like that concept of orchestration and where are we seeing? And I think that's where we see going from, just these systems that you can build. So I want to find one slide here. I think we lost one slide, but I'll just talk to it. I talked about here this concept of using ChatGPT live, right? It's when you're going to it. The other side of it is when you're starting to like actually build systems that incorporate AI. And a great example of that that we often give is like, when you get a new email like this, instead of like, okay, here's my email, I copied it over to ChatGPT, you can actually automate that. You can start building workflows for yourself that say, hey, every time I get this email, I want to parse the data and then I want to send it to the sales team, or I want to even have an AI step here that's going to ask me based on our definition of user qualification like examples, is this user or is this lead qualified? Do we need more information? What type of company is it? And you can kind of route based on the outputs of that. Beyond that, you then get into, really getting advanced with your AI usage with things like agents. I'm sure a lot of folks have heard about agents. One of the best ways to, in my experience, in thinking on the line between an agent and a simple workflow is going to be where you want to give the model or the AI, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, you want to give them the ability to choose what happens next. Because when you're building a, like what the industry likes to call deterministic, which is basically its known workflow, you always know like what is going to happen next. It's like every time that email comes, it's going to do this, and then it's going to do that, and then it's going to do this following thing. When you start to get into the world of agents, the model is really the one choosing the order of operations, if you will. You give it instructions and you give it tools to use. And you might say like, hey, when you get the emails, check for this, then do that. But it has the flexibility to decide what and when and how things are executed in that. And that can be really, really powerful for a number of use cases. One of my favorite ones there is research, for instance. I love doing it with research use cases, particularly like within a full workflow. I'll have a research use case because sometimes you want to say, hey, help me research this topic or this company or this person and come back with like this amount of it or these fields of information. And the reason why something like an agent is going to be really effective there is because it might, like the flow of things could change depending on the person, right? It might say like, oh, I found their website, or maybe it didn't find their website. And if it found the website, it's going to determine that it should probably look at the content of that website. And maybe it found a link on that website that talks about I don't know, let's say you were doing it for a job filtering. Maybe it did find a careers page. Okay, it's going to then know that you're looking for job information. So it's going to then go to the careers page. So it has that kind of like ability to make its own decisions and choose what happens next, which can be very effective for things like research, particularly if you and your company have like multiple tools and data lives in multiple places, and you need something that's going to be able to like navigate across that. That's where that kind of like agent stuff can be really effective. And another side then that we want to get to and show here in the demo is what happens when you start to give capabilities as tools to various AI apps that you're using through what's referred to today as MCP. And for anybody that has heard that term and doesn't yet understand it, it's really simple to think of MCP as like AI app integrations. That's probably like the simplest way. There's a bunch of fancy language and technical speak behind it. But quite simply, it does break down to the ability for AI apps to integrate with other apps. And so take a moment here to show the demo that Stafford created, highlighting this.
Today, I'm going to show you how we can use Zapier MCP to transform your favorite AI assistant into a tool that can truly orchestrate across all of your different business apps. For this, I set up a simple MCP server in Zapier and added a couple of different tools that I might want to use directly from inside Claude and connected them here. We'll start with a fictitious example where I work at a product called Product Flow. I work in customer support, and I've just received a email about a critical issue a customer is receiving. Now, something that most people will be familiar with is just using Claude or a similar AI assistant to basically write draft copy for you. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this email in and ask Claude to write me a quick summary. But instead of just taking it directly from the chat window, I'm going to actually have it set up a draft directly in Gmail. So first, let's make sure Claude understands the situation. Perfect. All right. So the first thing we'll do is go ahead and ask Claude to actually create that draft for me directly in Gmail. You can see it automatically identifies the correct tool and initiates that tool call for me. Each time you use a tool, if you've never used it before, it will prompt you if you'd like to go ahead and allow Claude to take action. In this case, we'll say allow always. Once it's done, Claude will go ahead and give you a summary of what it's done. And we can go ahead and check over here and see that indeed we do have a draft that we could send out to Jennifer. I can review this and send it when I'm ready. Next, let's go ahead and tell Claude we'd also like to notify our team in Slack. I can go ahead and tell Claude what I'd like to do, give it a couple of details, and similarly, it will pull up the correct tool call to get this going. In this case, I've given it the opportunity to also look up particular users by their email address so that they can be properly tagged. So again, I'm going to hit allow always. I should then find the right user and then generate the channel message that I've asked for. In the event that Claude has an error or runs into any issues, it will continually retry the tool, tweaking things as necessary. You can see in this case, it tried once, had to tweak a couple of things, and then was able to successfully post the channel message. If we pop over to this, channel, we can see it has all of the right information, and the person that I asked to be tagged was indeed tagged. Lastly, let's go ahead and log this in our Support Analytics Google Sheet. As you can see, Claude intelligently picks the right tool, sets up the right action, and then goes ahead and executes that tool call. And there you have it. If we look here, we have a nice summary. And if we check the sheet, it was indeed successfully logged. Claude was able to not just follow a script, it actually understood the business problem and was able to execute across multiple apps, all with Zapier MCP. Today, I'm going to show you how we can use Zapier MCP to transfer.
I think if we can go back to slides, that'd be good. But I hope if it's not clear, I think one of the things that I get really excited about is when you can start to like blend the world of AI and tools. Because really, when you're looking at building systems with AI, you can think about there's your using of ChatGPT directly. Then I'm just using ChatGPT as an example. Claude, Gemini, all the others fill in just the same really here. But let's say using Claude directly. Then there is you want to build a system that is always running. It's on when you sleep. Common question I'll give people is like, what could you do if you could run ChatGPT in your sleep? And think about building that way as like coming to your first evolution. But what we're increasingly starting to see, thanks to the standardization around MCP, is the fact that more and more apps, and AI apps in particular, are giving you the ability to bring other tools in. And so Claude, for instance, has been expanding greatly with their capabilities for integrations. And now you can bring your own tools into Claude. And Zapier MCP essentially allows you to take all of the 8,000 apps on Zapier and put the searches and actions from them into Claude and into your favorite AI apps. And this starts to create like really cool possibilities, because now when you ask a question of a model, it's not operating on its own, like kind of knowledge that it was trained on. You can start to give it actions that allow it to search over information in your databases, in your CRM, in your tables, everything you've got. And it can also take actions. It can also, as you saw there, like create rows in a Google Sheet. It can update items in a Kanban board. It could do all sorts of things, and you can give it some great instructions on how to do that. And I think that kind of blending of building with AI and tools, and also like allowing AI to use tools, create some really cool stuff. And you'll start to see that there's like all these layers of what is possible and how you're working with it. And I like to think about like sophistication of AI as coming back to like a Swiss Army knife, maybe a cliche metaphor, but it really is. And I think the best builders we're seeing are those who are understanding what each tool in a Swiss Army knife actually does. For anybody that's ever bought one, there's sometimes where you're like flipping through it and you're like, I know that that's a screwdriver head, but what on earth is this thing and when would I use it? And that's honestly how a lot of folks probably feel if you then tell them like, MCP, what's MCP, right? It's like that random thing in a Swiss Army knife that you're like, I don't know what this thing did. I don't know why it has that attachment. That's kind of the sophistication and what we're seeing here, because each tool is going to be used for a different job, and learning kind of what tool goes with which job, where they're good, where they're bad, the different grades of tools, very kind of like how I see a lot of the people evolving in their skill set, and also organizations. Because then you can start to see that orchestrating with AI really comes down to, connecting with multiple things, using end-to-end applications, and whether that be agents, workflows, how do those systems incorporate all of this? And doing that like safely, securely, and easily across your business. A really big part of this is how do you enable yourself and your business to use these tools in ways that make sense and ways that are easy to figure out. It's one of the things that I love about building with Zapier and it being like a no-code platform from the very early days. All right, let's share some stories here. Well, one of our favorite stories here to talk about, you've got Marcus here as head of IT and AI automation at a company called Remote. And one of the things that they worked on was an AI-powered help desk with Zapier agents. And so this was really helpful at doing things like automatic ticket capture and prioritizations. It has AI suggested solutions, and also handled the like human handoff as it was needed. And they saw some incredible results. I mean, they had, I think, around like a quarter of the tickets were resolved automatically in minutes. They said, they did some math and said that they were saving $1 million by consolidating a number of legacy tools, and that they were able to get a team of 3 perform as they would have expected to scale up to a team of 10. And that was them like really learning on like what does this thing do? How can we bring it into our business in a way that is going to help us grow? And love seeing use cases like that. And I think that's some inspiration for y'all to think about. Here was the slide I was looking for before when I was just talking through an example. We can skip that now. And I think, again, just to think about the kind of phases of orchestration and where things get involved. Today, I think a lot of what we see is folks start with using an LLM directly through ChatGPT, Claude, so forth. Then they start to build workflows on top of that. One of the most common ones, not common, one of the first I ever did in this side was, a Slack one where when I added a reaction in Slack, it used a OpenAI model to then give me a better title for what should go on my to-do list based on that message. And then the next step was just adding it to my to-do list. Really, really, really simple workflow. But what it gave me was a really clean way of adding things to my to-do list automatically that I didn't need to manually do. And it, has a very good reliability for me on the titles being actionable. Where before, without that AI step, I was using the like raw text of the Slack message. And so when I came into my morning, I would look at my to-do list and it would be like a bunch of like random text, and it wasn't really articulating what the action item actually was. And maybe it's just my like, keen nature, but it drove me a little bit nuts. And so I was really happy, and it made my life a lot easier. And I was actually a lot more excited to keep adding things to my to-do list because I knew they would enter more nicely. But then where does that evolve? Needing agents and bringing tools into your AI systems through MCP, and really just scaling that across the whole business. So here, I want to take some time, pass it back to Alicia to give some announcements here as well.
Thank you so much, Reid. I was actually in there trying to get the questions. Where is everyone on their AI orchestration journey? Because I know it varies across the board from an individual level to a personal level. So that was awesome. Thank you both to Bryan, Stafford, and Reid for going through this. And we have some time for probably one or two more questions. But I would be not doing you all a service if I did not make our announcement about Zap Connect. Zap Connect is our biggest conference, let me just actually tell you directly what it is, when it is, and how you can get involved. Some of you may have received an invite this morning in your inbox. For those of you who didn't, do not fret. In the links box, we actually have your ability to register now, which I will promote on stage because it really is an amazing event. And on top of that, it's free. Zap Connect 2025 is going to spotlight the power of AI to drive real-world results through hands-on workshops. Some of you asked about workshops, so this is the place to go. I'm sure we have quite amazing people who will be running those workshops and tying in everything that we're talking about together. Actionable tips and lessons from thought leaders and some amazing organizations that I know you've all heard of. Just feel free to check out the website and you'll see a few of the people who we have speaking. And we'll especially be able to hear from our wonderful CEO, Wade Foster. And don't worry, you can go to this site at any point in time, look for it, share it with your coworkers if you think it would be valuable. And it's all virtual. And again, it is free. And so with that, we're going to jump into Q&A. We've had quite a few really good, interesting questions coming in, especially when it comes to MCP. As we have learned, MCP is kind of the topic of choice. I'm going to figure, is there a course for Zapier that goes over MCP? We actually have a few resources on the website. Reid, do you know if we have any MCP deep dive workshops or anything of that sort?
That's a good question. Not yet. On the MCPs, I could answer some of these MCP questions. I see a few of them. On the MCP side, keep in mind, this is like about 2 months old, 3 months old. We're rapidly improving this. We've seen incredible adoption of Zapier MCP, and we continue to see. So we will continue to be improving this. So I think I saw someone talk about the connection stuff. It should continue to get better. Please keep contacting support with things. Our ability to offer support is a little bit limited right now. So bear with us as we evolve and honestly work alongside the industry that's evolving this protocol to continue to make it better. I saw a billing question here that looks like it's at the top on MCP as well. The $300 a month cap. If you go into your account now, you should actually see an option to fill in a form to request additional quota increase. We have currently a free thing for users on paid Zapier plans to get an automatic free increase in that for the rest of until the 31st of August, as we are working on pricing model. Transparently, question there on the pricing model is the cost of this stuff for us is still a little bit unknown. As again, a lot of this is very new. And then, go on.
I was actually going to say, I think we have time for a couple more questions. And Again, a lot of this is about MCP, and just to rephrase reinforce what Reid said, this is still pretty new, and we're getting data feedback and learning something new every day. And there's going to be more in-depth information and courses, but feel free to reach out to our sales team if you want to just go into a deeper dive and see if it works for your organization, or can give you some more tips and tools. And we'll have more workshops and information in the future about how to set up MCP. One interesting thing I'd like to hear your opinion on, and then I have one last question and we will wrap up. What baby step would you recommend to start working with MCP? A quick case study or example would you recommend?
Ooh, just starting to learn about MCP. Okay, it probably depends on where you're using things today. I would say that the top 2 best places to experience MCP and play around with it is kind of still like using MCP with AI tools is going to be Claude.ai. That's Claude the chatbot. Their interface today for using MCP and experiencing that is the best for almost all users. The other one would be if you're an engineer or in development. There's a lot of ones within like Cursor, for instance, whose experience with MCP is phenomenal. But things that I would do if, that I would talk to people is like experience with Claude and giving it access to tools that you want to use. If you're already using Claude, utilize projects for specific instructions. For instance, I use a Claude project right now to help manage my my family calendar. My wife loves keeping our calendar in like a physical one. I live by Google Calendar, and she asked me like, why didn't I put it on the physical one? And I'm like, can we put it on the Google one? And so one thing I played around with doing that actually worked quite well was I actually gave Claude via Zapier MCP Google Calendar actions to like find events, update events, delete events, and things like that. And then I just took a picture of the physical calendar and said like, is everything here already on my calendar? If not, let me know what's not. And it told me what was missing or what was mismatched. And then I gave it instructions to like add everything that was missing and do or don't do some of the updates depending on how it interpreted it. And it just like went through and did like, I think 17 different calendar updates on its own. And I think that experience of things is quite cool from like a tool that you can use synchronously or live. Another one that I had a lot of fun with was I was at a dinner and they had like name cards on people's plates for a business thing. And I used Claude with access to like our CRM and web search and stuff like that. And again, I just took a bunch of pictures of the name cards around me at the table and asked it to research, like, were these Zapier customers? If so, like, tell me a bit about their account. Who are they as people? And then when people started coming in, I knew exactly like who everyone was from like a business relationship standpoint. That allowed me to like kind of better utilize my time. And for the folks who were some of our customers, they were very impressed that I actually knew that about them. And I got to talk about this use case. So really cool stuff that you can start to experience with that.
Awesome. This, as George mentioned, he loves to connect Claude to Notion. That's one of his favorites. And then I have one last question, which I think it ties into our subject overall about AI orchestration, or how your AI can work for your own AI tech stack. Is there a preferred AI platform, if you will, that we use? Or where and how does Zapier's functionality work with that preferred platform or the many platforms as we use?
Yeah, we use a lot of different ones, like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google are obviously like some of the biggest ones to utilize. There's a lot out there as well of other models. I would say just experiment. It's like if you're start with some of the frontier, like the best ones that you've heard about. First is like the easiest, like Google Gemini even has a free tier, which makes experimenting like extremely easy for that. So I think there's a lot of choice that people have, and I think that's actually a great thing. But I think you would want to like figure out like what is best, and it does vary a lot. We use a I don't know, a collage, if you will, of capabilities depending on the use case, depending on the job. Like people will have opinions and analytical answers on what model is best for which types of jobs, because that does start to vary. But yeah, I hope that helps as a quick answer. So it's a meatier question.
Awesome. Perplexity was mentioned also, which is a great tool. There's just a ton of great information coming in, but we're at time. We will pull your questions afterward and address them in the most meaningful way possible. Bryan, we had Bryan in the background working, so I want to say a special thank you to Brad and Bryan. And also quite a few questions about NAN, which I hope you got some answers and clarity on from the team and who are the experts here. Before we go, and I thank everyone for joining today, I wanted to make sure that, we talked a lot about what is AI orchestration, how tying all these systems together. So I wanted to make sure to let everyone know that if you actually are scaling AI at your organization, you can fill out this form for an opportunity to connect with Zapier's co-founder and CEO, Wade Foster, about scaling AI at your company. We're here to be consultants, guides, I was going to say your spirit animal when it comes to AI, the AI journey. As you can see with Reid and his amazing expertise, we just want to help and make make people's lives easier so you can go back to doing the things that you like doing, especially at work. So with that, thank you to our audience for joining today. Thank you for such interesting, different, varied questions across the board. I loved hearing from people with all different experiences with AI. Special thank you to our support with Bryan and Brad and that awesome demo to show MCP. I know there's a lot of questions about it, but it's an ever-evolving thing, and there will be more information to come, we promise. And then, of course, a special thank you to Reid, who we wouldn't be here in this public arena talking about these things without him. So thank you, Reid. And with that, we hope everyone has a great rest of their day and hope to see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. More importantly, thanks for joining, taking your time. Bye.